Following one of the most successful years in Jacksonville history, going 16-1, and then running through the playoffs, claiming their second straight Super Bowl championship, we look to the future and if this team can stick together. And it begins here in the offseason, where I do expect a lot of movement to take place. As we are coming close to the end here for Jacksonville, we have about a month until the next Madden comes out, Madden 26. I believe early release date is August 11th. Hoping we could squeeze out 2 more seasons. And if we are to do so, that means we've got to get through these seasons a little bit quicker. And this last season, we played at least 2 games per episode, sometimes 3, even had a 4 mixed in there. I think in this next year, we'll continue with multi-games, and we might even straight up sim through some of these if it's against lesser competition, though any given Sunday. But as we look to close out this year and get on in to the next season, let's take a quick recap of the stats. Jeff Polk, close to 3,500 passing, 23 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, 64% complete. Wasn't his best year, but he also missed some time as he sat the last couple games. Tyrell Hobbs and the backups got the start as we already locked in our spot in the playoffs. And Hobbs played well, 455, 4 touchdowns, 1 pick, 68% complete. It was a display for him that really was to show what he could do for what should be a trade this offseason. As for the rushing game, ETN dominated as usual while still missing a few games. 1,300 yards, 16 touchdowns. Polk had a few rushing touchdowns, as well as the rookie in Sammy Perkins, who very well could be taking over as the primary back this year. We'll see what ETN feels like as this offseason moves along. Receiving wise, Jordan Addison also missing quite a few games, only played in 12 this year in the regular season, that is. Very close to 1,000 yards, 5 touchdowns for him. Brian Thomas Jr., though, less than 40 grabs and just under 700 yards, 4 touchdowns. I'm sure he's not too happy with his production at this point, and potentially could be looking for either a larger role in the offense that is guaranteed or a trade. Sexton, a bounce back year for him. He stayed healthy pretty much through and through, banged up a little bit here and there in games, but played 17 in the regular season. Just under 600 yards, 3 touchdowns for him. ETN with almost another 500 through the air, 1 more touchdown. Baker did get involved, and he was a solid receiver for us. Definitely helped fill in when Addison was out injured. Only 25 grabs going into what should be his 5th season. He's also a guy who could be looking to be traded to a starting position somewhere else. Under 400 yards for him, 4 touchdowns. Terrace Marshall, a surprise, 5 touchdowns, tied for the leader on the team. Decent addition for us. Kevin Poole, a really solid year. He didn't see that many receptions, 19, but when we did look his way, he was pretty solid for us. As for the blocking, pretty clean for the most part. Occasionally gave up that pressure. Had some guys banged up. Luke Bacon only played in 12 games this year, so always room to improve. But the biggest thing with this group is the penalties. Just way too much. Getting to the defensive side, Devin Lloyd did lead us in tackles with 72, and surprisingly, Cole Hall right behind with 68. I didn't feel like he had that big of an impact on the team this year, but the stats tell me otherwise. TFL leader is Trayvon Walker with Josh Hines-Allen behind at 11. And there are a lot of rumors around that he will be leaving Jacksonville this year, trying to capitalize, build that money bag before he ends up retiring. He just finished his 9th season. As for sack leader, it is Trayvon Walker with, again, Josh Hines-Allen. Between these two, the contracts that were put out, $200 million. Alford, Griffey, Mason Smith behind. And if indeed Josh Hines-Allen does depart, I feel like with the structure we have here, with Alford, with Griffey, with Mason Smith if he wants to stick around or look for more money elsewhere, we'll find out. But I believe with those 4, a switch to a 4-3 defense or a 4-2-5 defense could really help with just the depth and require us to not make as many moves this offseason to get the defense ready for next year. Interception leader, that's going to be Devin Lloyd with 3. 2 apiece for Josh Hines-Allen, Terrence Yancey, and Jerrion Jones. one for Campbell, one for Cisco. And these are the two most veteran players really in the secondary for us, both playing their 7th season this last year. And again, I don't feel like they had as big of an impact as we saw from Jerrion Jones, from Terrence Yancey, and of course, we had the rookie out there as well in Nathan Amerson, who is fighting for some playing time on the outside. One area that I don't expect to see any changes, that's going to be at kicker. Cam Little was 17 of 19 on his field goals this year, 51 of 52 on his extra points. And checking the yearly awards, your MVP is Patrick Mahomes. Of course, it always goes to him. Meanwhile, not a single Jacksonville Jaguar on the list, despite winning back-to-back Super Bowls. However, your coach of the year is Coach Madison Boston. Well-deserved for him. AFC side, your offensive player of the year is going to be Mahomes. We had Travis Etienne in the running here down at 6. Defensive player of the year, Myles Garrett. We had 2 on the list down at the bottom in Trayvon Walker and Josh Hines-Allen, rounding out 9 and 10 behind my head. Offensive rookie, Spencer Collins of the Titans. That is one I do agree with. He played very, very well out there. Sammy Perkins, if he was a full-time starter, maybe could have rivaled that. We also had Kevin Poole on the list here at 5, and Terrell Hobbs down here at 9, despite only getting 2 starts. As for the defensive rookie, that goes to Jeff Hightower of the Broncos. Nathan Amerson, who I thought was really solid this year, he comes in at number 4. Best quarterback, that's going to go to Mahomes. We all know that story. Jeff Polk comes in down at 9. Best running back is Travis Etienne Jr. I think he's hit that 2 of the 3 years in this series. Best receiver goes to Rashee Rice. Not a single Jaguar on the list. Best O-line, Creed Humphrey, with Al Meadows coming in at 2. He did get a couple starts. Definitely wasn't a full-time starter. Potentially this next year could be. And best D-line is going to be Myles Garrett, with not a single one of our players on that list. Best linebacker, you're going to have TJ Watt. Trayvon Walker comes in there at 3 with Josh Hines-Allen at 5. Best DB, you got Sauce Gardner. No one on our side. And best kicker goes to Joshua Carty. Live it up, Stanford Cardinal, with Cam Little coming in at 3. And quickly, we'll go through the NFC awards. You could always pause to see the full list for these, but since we really don't see them all too much in this series, we will quickly get on through. The only thing I'm noticing is not really any Minnesota Vikings at the top. And with us looking to take the defense in that new direction this year, the 4-3 or the 4-2-5, Jackson Pierce is no longer going to be our defensive coordinator with that scheme fitted around a 3-4 storm. So the story isn't we are firing him, it's that he's actually moving on to college football where he's going to become a head coach. Makes a little bit more sense after 2 straight Super Bowl wins. You don't fire your defensive coordinator for storybook purposes. That is what is happening. And as for who we want to take over as that defensive coordinator, Sammy Rios, a 4-3 quarters scheme. Coming in with a talent group here that I don't think is actually too bad. You got the standard 4-3, full blitz, and defensive back guru, so we could really fit exactly what we're looking to here with our defense with Rios. On top of that, he also comes in with the highest hiring bonus as well to match our current 160, so we could really get him upgraded. So we will hire Rios. And then in the following week, our offensive coordinator would then be hired away. So we have to fill another position. And we are more of a power style. So someone like West Coast Power, Jamie Rodriguez, could be an option here for us. Would come in with pocket passing, secure the line, and halfback guru. No real boost then, I would feel like, for the receivers. Another option could be Malcolm Brooks, who also has that West Coast Power, 84 hiring bonus for him. And it's open field moves, power running, and quarterback guru. That might fit a little bit more here for us. Now in total, this still seemed to be very much more favored towards the running backs, even with open field moves. One whole side is going to be for the backs. You do have one side for the receivers, but that's a little bit more run after the catch. As for the power, there really isn't any upgrades here for the offensive line with this group, but you do still get the quarterback boost. Not really sure if Polk needs that. The only other option would be someone like Jared Paul, who only has the 81 hiring bonus. He's a vertical power run, which was the same scheme we ran last season. Quick throws, outside running, and offensive line guru. Of these three options, I feel like he really fits the least. We don't do much outside running. Quick throws, we do quite often, so that part would fit. Offensive line would get the boost with him. But I feel like the man for us is going to be Malcolm Brooks. So we've got a new OC as well as that new DC. And with all the hiring bonus we had, plus the stockpile of staff points, this is what we're looking like. For the OC, we went down the power running game here, especially if Travis Etienne is set to go. I want to make sure that Sammy Perkins is ready to go. So we are fully upgraded for the tight ends to help get involved in the blocking, set the edge if we do look to get outside or be involved in some power schemes. We got the awareness, stiff arm, strength, as well as trucking, and to cap it all off, a little bit more break tackle is never bad. As for the DC side, we went towards the defensive ends. Switching to that 4-3, we want to make sure it's going to be a smooth transition. So outside of the awareness boost here for the linebackers and defensive line, more specifically, you got play rec for middle linebackers, man coverage for outside linebackers with the finesse move boost for defensive ends, which would help out Griffey. He is a finesse style, and frankly, Walker could do whatever we want. We also are going to get a boost to speed as well. With Griffey switching to the outside, has been playing a little bit more 3-tech. Want to make sure he has that speed to maintain the outside. With all the coaching now set up, this is where it's big decision time. Now, as it stands right now, we do have a lot of money, 119 to work with, but we've got to figure out deals for Akeem Aquanu, Antone Harrison. If we want to keep Javon Baker around, he does have interest in returning, but again, he wants a larger role. So does Thomas. Maxwell Sexton has a 5th-year option. Obviously, we're going to pick that up. We like him. Jonah Ellis. I feel like for him, while he has interest in staying around, if we are switching to a 4-3, we do not need to keep him around. Jose Cobbs could be someone we could have tried to keep around, but he wants play time. Austin Booker, another recent addition. Again, with our changes, we could probably look to move off from him. If we don't land Akeem Aquanu, someone like Al Meadows is definitely someone we have to bring back. Terrence Marshall not interested. Tank we really only brought back for the injury to Etienne in the playoffs. Will Green, probably not going to bring him back. Generals Foster, Smith, probably. I'm surprised, honestly, he didn't end up retiring. Cam Little, though, that is the guy we would want to bring back. Perhaps Logan Cook, Hunter, not really high on our board. So let's get started then at the top. Akeem Aquanu. He has some interest. The biggest thing is that we just don't have a mentor, or at least that was what it was. Now it seemingly has changed. Historic championships. We've won 2 Super Bowls in a row. How that isn't green, I don't know. Multiple power, so the scheme fit is looking good. Close to home is all right. So it seems like he would be up to have a negotiation here. Try to bring him back. Would probably mean we need to offer a bit more money here, taking us below the 100 million to work with. But a 3-year deal, 21 mil, I think that's something we could work with here. So we will make that offer, and he will sign it. Great offer. Apparently, we could have had that be a little bit less. We did add a year, add a little bit of money on there as well. We locked down Aquanu. So as for Meadows, that probably means we're moving on from him. Now, Antone Harrison. He's been a solid blocker. The biggest problem with this guy is he is just so undisciplined. 84 overall. We did just draft a tackle. And while he is really good, someone that potentially you could even look to tag and trade, I feel like this is a spot that we could look to move off and get younger at. If we were to just put in a small offer here, again, this would be a tag and trade situation. We'll bump up the money a little bit here. We'll offer that. And that is exactly the offer he was hoping for. So that doesn't mean we're going to keep him around. We still might trade him, but we lock him down potentially for this next year. Down to 85 mil. And at this point, you have to kind of choose between Thomas or Baker. And honestly, both could end up looking to move off from us. 26 years old here with Baker. and he's got some solid hands, solid route running, releases at a good spot. He should be a starter somewhere. As for Thomas, he's going to come in a year younger. Plus, he's a higher overall, down to a star dev though. Route runnings are going to be improved more for down the field. Hands similar, release a little bit higher. So as for right now, I would say Baker would say, if you give me a contract offer, it has to be for either wide receiver 1 or 2. That's not on the table. So while he had interest in returning, his demands were not met. So we will go ahead and withdraw an offer for Baker, but he definitely helped us out this year. As for Maxwell Sexton, we will be accepting the 5th-year option for him. The last player we have to negotiate with is going to be Cam Little. Look to go ahead and lock him down for the remainder of this series. We'll give him a good amount of money because he's been pretty good to us. So we'll make that offer, and that is one he will sign. Well, as for the rest of these guys, we already talked about moving off from them, so no surprises in guys who we did not offer contracts to. But before we could go and head on into open free agency, we kind of got to take a look at what our needs just might be. We could look for a backup quarterback of the future. Right now, we have Alfonso Andrews coming off the practice squad, and he's going to be second year out of James Madison, 6'2", 212. Has some short accuracy, but the medium and deep isn't really anything promising. He's got some solid speed, though. With us most likely trading away Tyrell Hobbs, bringing in maybe an older vet in that lower 70 overall, that could be a good spot for us. Now, as for the running back spot, Travis Etienne Jr., he's actually still holding in here pretty strong at 29 years old. We take a look at his progression history, or in this case, regression history. We do see a little loss to his carrying. Awareness goes down 1. Change of direction, though, that is down 5. Break tackle is down by 3, with spin move also seeing that same hit. So there's definitely some regression happening to him. If we take a look at the overall ratings, though, his speed is still at a 93. He is seeing some morale boost, so that break tackle would be down to a 94. Nothing to complain about. Overall, he's still really at a really solid spot here. Injury, though, is dropping. That is now down to an 87. So he might just not be able to have as large of a workload, but we could definitely still use Etienne Jr. this year. So perhaps it's time. Like I said, Levi Brown, he might be looking for his next stop on his journey, and he's already on the trade block. We do have a young guy behind him in Kerry Barber, a power back from Notre Dame. With 89 speed, has some solid trucking. I mean, the ratings here don't look too bad. If he were to get some playing time, being that number 3 option, I don't think that'd be too bad. Probably his best option, as he does have low injury here as well. So I don't think we have to make really any moves at running back, and we could just let Etienne be the primary third down back, and maybe we see Sammy take over for that primary spot and power back role. Now, receiver, that is looking a little bit thin with Baker choosing to move on. We did sign Kurt Colbert to a multi-year contract a season ago. He's moving into his 4th year. It's really decision time for him. He's a clean route runner underneath. He struggles down the field, but we have both Addison as well as Thomas for that. Release is low, so he's going to be playing in the slot. Hands are at a pretty solid spot outside of that spec catch. Injury rating for him is at an 88, so he could have some problems there. I think it would still be good for us to perhaps bring in a vet to be a backup for us, kind of like Terrace Marshall last year. Tight end, we're looking very good at here with Sexton, Poole. We also have Culver, that receiver type, and then Madison Turner, who's been more of our fullback. I think this year we could look to go a lot more with the 2 receiver sets, 2 tight end sets. That would also increase the workload then for Thomas, as there'd be less options to throw to, and that might help him out as well. And to the offensive line, where we did end up keeping around Antone Harrison, I think he's someone that we do look to add to the block, not because he hasn't played well with his blocking, but because of how much he's hurt the team with those holding calls. Quentin Starks could come in behind him. He's going to have higher strength. You sacrifice a little bit of some speed at the edge. Pass blocking, though, is still pretty solid. Going to take a hit with the run blocking, but I think you've really got to get the young guy out there. He is a star dev, so we could see some quick progress with him working on the power blocking, as that run block power is down at a 72, though the run block finesse is pretty low. As a left tackle, though, you could sacrifice some run blocking. Now, we did sign Akeem Ekwonu to a long-term deal. Quinn Minor's still on his deal. We got a solid backup here in Danny Carmichael behind Rashawn Hartwell, but we could use some more depth now with Al Meadows moving on. And I already have shifted around the defensive line as well. We do need, I feel like, a good depth guy here for a power rusher. We have Trayvon Walker, but then it's going to be a steep drop off to Carlos Davis and Carlos Long. As for right outside, you got Rakeem Griffey, you got Marquez Hughes, as well as Philip Barnett. And I feel like Hughes, while he does provide position flexibility, he can play down the middle as well as a 3-tech. I think he's someone who could be a good option for us to trade to help try to bring in that piece that we need over on the left side, which is going to be more of your power rusher focus. So Hughes, we will be adding him to the block, or he already is actually on the block. That's good news for us. At DT, Mason Smith was already there, but Junior Alford shifts down. He will be probably more of that 3-tech. He's got the better acceleration. We also have Taylor Wooden, so we're good with depth here at DT. Linebackers we could use with some depth. Dylan Bullitt will be a starter now here, switching to the 4-3 defense. He's taken over at left outside linebacker as a primary run stopper. We have the backup with Dominic Ballard. And then at middle linebacker, we only have Lloyd, and out right outside, we have Hall, as Josh Hines Allen will be traded in this offseason, so we will add him to the block. He's 31 years old. We saw him regress from an X Factor down to a superstar, and he's probably still got a good 1-2 years left before any sort of major decline. He's down to a 90 overall. And at corner, something similar could happen here with Tyson Campbell, as he's closing into the latter part of his career around this 28, 29-year-old spot. We do see a lot of corners moving around as teams look to get younger. He's still very talented. Those coverages would drop down to a 91 with the morale out of the way, pressed down to a 90. Still has good speed. With the guys we have on roster, I think we could take that hit. Jarian Jones can become the number 1 here corner for us, and he played as a number 1 corner really last year. Very solid, man cover focused. We have who I think should have been much higher in the defensive rookie of the year voting, and Nathan Amerson. We also have Lamar Gray. A couple years into his career, I think he's developed enough that he should see playing time as a slot corner. 88 speed with the 80-man coverage, 74 zone. He's got some press. He can tackle. I think we're at a good spot here that he needs to see that playing time, so we know if he should be sticking around here for a second contract. So for Tyson Campbell, that means it's time for him to be added to the block. When it comes to free safety, Cisco also didn't really perform that well this last year. We do have George Boss, who moved over from corner to free safety. He would sacrifice a little bit of speed, but higher acceleration, a massive drop in strength. As for the coverage ratings, you're going to get better man coverage. So overall, better coverage. You're just going to sacrifice some of that zone. As for the tackling, pretty similar. Catching would go down, but we really didn't see Cisco make many interceptions this year. He got beat actually quite often. He was out of position regularly. So I think this is another spot that potentially we could look to make a trade. So adding to the block will be Andre Cisco. As for Jose Cobbs over at strong safety, I could have sworn he said that he wanted to move on, but apparently he is still here for one more season. So we have depth when it comes to that safety spot or strong safety spot for $2 million. But obviously the starter, that is Yancey's job through and through. He can even play free safety if we need. So as we hit open free agency, we know backup quarterback, perhaps some backups for the offensive line. Depth at linebacker for sure is going to be needed, and even at receiver. And there is a 90 overall hitting the board here at 25 years old. You don't typically see that all too often. We take a look here at the quarterbacks. You do have Michael Penix Jr., a 28-year-old. Dak Prescott at 35, still 76 overall. But I feel like we'd be looking for someone more in the range of perhaps Gardner Minshew. You could even bring in Baker Mayfield, and I think that could be a solid option for our backup quarterback spot. Again, looking to make a trade. He's looking for a little over $4 million a season. And right now, the ratings are at a better spot than what could be our backup quarterback. Speed still sitting at a good spot, and with that mentor tag, could help development of both of those players. So we'll definitely have to keep Baker in mind. Now, at receiver, you don't have anyone too high hitting the market here. Joshua Palmer is number one at 84 overall, 28 years old. And we could look for a veteran here. Chris Godwin would be interesting, but his speed is down to an 84. Someone like Troy Franklin, perhaps, coming out of Oregon, now 25 years old, has some interest in us. We take a look at him. He is a star dev, 6'2", 176. He's more of a down the field, so wouldn't be exactly a perfect fit for a slot receiver, as that would be fighting Colbert potentially for some starting time. Now, we tried to resurrect the career of Terrace Marshall. Could we look to do the same with Jonathan Mingo? Oh, he's looking for around $5 million, so a little bit of a higher price tag. Now, if we were wanting to add some depth with a mentor tag here to the linebacker group, Foye Oluokun is available here. No other team is currently looking at him. Now, I don't think he would play linebacker or middle linebacker for us, but could potentially, I think, maybe shift over to that left outside linebacker spot where Bullet is and be a mentor for him, as he's fairly balanced in his ratings. He's definitely seen a good amount of regression since he was a starter for us. But considering we need depth, I think this could be a big pickup for us. No one is really interested, so we are going to kind of lowball him here. $8 million, though, for a backup. That is quite a lot. I think we got to really dig in deep here. It's going to be lowball. We'll put it in. We'll see if he accepts it. $6 million for one season, and it's only meeting about half of his desires. A similar option could be someone like Matt Milano, 34 years old. Again, would be a mentor. Probably put him behind Hall. He still has some speed, still has some cover ability in him. Probably doesn't have what he needs to be a full-time starter still. And we currently no other offers in. This will be another one that we will lowball. Already doesn't have much interest in coming to Jacksonville, but we will put in a similar offer to that of flipping the numbers around of Oluokun. Now, here's a move that may not make immediate sense out the gate. Not really a signing to play, but more of a, honestly, coach on the field. Rasul Douglas, his speed is way down at an 84, but the coverages are still fine. He has a mentor tag, though, and is down at a 74. And with us going with a younger core of corners, I think that could be really big for us. Plus, on top of that, he has interest in coming here. So Rasul Douglas, we're going to offer him a 1-year, $3 million contract. And we got a Philip Hunter spot as well. So going on the younger side here, Matt Tobias, let's just put in an offer here that should see us on through the remainder of this series, and hopefully he does end up accepting that. But this is going to be our first round here of open free agency, mostly going after mentors to help fill in backup roles. We should have the starters for this roster. So we will evaluate here, and two have decided. Did they choose Duval? Yes, they did. Rasul Douglas and Tobias both join. However, the linebackers are holding out for a better offer. So as we evaluate one more time here, they still haven't decided. Now, there is one player I do want to go see if he is still available, and that would be Baker Mayfield. Indeed, he is. So let's put in an offer here for a backup quarterback, 1-year deal, a little cheap on it. We'll make it that offer as well. So for the final time here in week 1 of open free agency, we will evaluate, and still they are holding out for better offers. Now, with the next week here, no one else putting in offers for these veterans. One has decided. Baker Mayfield is headed to Duval. He's been in Florida before. Now it's just going to be wearing a different colored jersey. But Oluokun and Milano still holding out here. They'll continue holding out until they decide here with the last offer put in. And this is going to be our free agent class. We go vet heavy outside of the punter. We bring back Foye Oluokun. Matt Milano joins, Rasul Douglas, as well as Baker Mayfield. And we have offers coming in for Josh Hines, Allen, Roger McCreary, Roman Wilson, Garrison Clancy, a young DT. It's intriguing, but we're pretty full there. A young receiver in David Burton. Now, we didn't sign any other receiver, so that is one that we could take a look at with the Raiders to see how he looks. Dante Banks, Jaleel Joyner, a young free safety. Again, if we wanted to move off from Cisco, possibly here with the Falcons, would get a 2 in a couple seasons. And then an offensive lineman who looks like he should be a starter. Now, we don't have a starting spot open. So you got Joyner and you've got Burton. Now, surprisingly, Burton is actually second on their roster. Wondering why they would put him up then. I mean, I know it's Josh Hines Allen, but that's a little surprising. 6 foot, 207, 22 years old, out of Arizona State, wearing 28. That's an interesting number. He's got some solid speed. Release isn't the best, so he could be potentially a bigger body slot guy. Catching traffic, though, is on the lower side. That's down at a 77, so it seems like he might struggle with catches, though his traits does have possession catch, run after the catch. Balanced guy, I mean, all in all, doesn't seem too bad. But he can't stay healthy. Always important to check the injuries. That's down at an 80. Kind of pushes us off then. Looking to make a move there. And then for the Falcons, they do have Jesse Bates. Still rocking here going on into his 11th season. And they've got plenty of depth behind. So taking a look then at Jaleel Joyner. 5'10", 216, 22 years old, out of Wisconsin. Hybrid style, 88 speed, not the best. How is his tackle rating? 72. Hit power. I mean, he could potentially play more of a strong safety, and Yancey could move over, but I feel like we already basically have his style player, although the injury's at a good spot. Don't really feel like anything necessarily sticking out here with this first round of trades. So then shifting our focus to the draft, where we feel like in this one, with all the moves we've made, getting the roster set up for the current starters, we're looking to make a splash in the latter part of this draft and find some key depth who could develop into some potential starters. I think the first place we really do need to look here is at receiver, and the top option here in Joseph Cooks was a round 1, but the talent grade is a little bit lower, down to a round 1 to 2, and we've struggled to really find solid receivers in these classes. He does have good deep route running, but that's all he could run. In fact, none of these receivers seemingly are very good route runners. Now, you do have Brian Wood, who's second on the board. He does have A for his spec catch, B for catching traffic, but then the catching really isn't anything great. Now, this is all relative to everyone else. He looks like he might be a better option than Cooks, but not exactly top-tier kind of guy. An interesting option later on here is DeMar McCollum. He is 5'10", 194, out of Texas, around 2 to 3 talent grade, though projected round 3 to 4. His awareness is C to a D. Catching is going to be a B with A catch in traffic. I'm thinking maybe someone who could play in the slot for us. And he doesn't have really great release. Route running is fitted more towards the underneath, which is where those slot guys typically are running. So he could be a solid option and someone to keep our eye out on. Another guy who did see a jump is Dante De Carvalho out of LSU. He was projected day 3, but the talent grade says round 2 to 3. Hands, questionable, especially in tight coverage, but he can make some great ones on the outside. Short route running is there, but the rest of the route running really isn't. But if you want depth in the 3rd round, as a day 3 prospect, he's really not too shabby. But if you have questions on the offensive line, with Starks potentially being that starter, you could look to address it here early on. You have several guys going from around 1 to 2 up to 1 in Terrence Keenan, as well as Juan Moses. You even have Larry Mason, who was a round 2 to 3 up to around 1 to 2. Pass pro for half of these guys, with the other being a power focused guy, so could potentially slide down and play some guard. And it seems like if you are going to go tackle, you're going to err on the side of the left tackles, because the right tackle spot, seeming like most of these guys have dropped, and dropped fairly dramatically. One riser, though, Chris Day, a guy to keep an eye out on late. Potential undrafted day 3 talent. But we are looking for some power rush help here, so taking a look at the edge rushers. And there are going to be some guys here. You got a round 1 to 2 and Michael Alvarado. He's going to be an earlier round guy, so not exactly what we'd look for, though. If Manny Irwin is available, he seems to be a really solid player here. With B awareness, A play rec, B power moves with A block shed. Could be pretty solid around the board. Later on even, Todd Sinclair coming in with that B power move, C block shed with some fairly high intangibles. And on the opposite side, you do have a couple guys with some power moves. Deontay Davis, we wanted to shift him over to the left side. He does have that B, but not much of the secondary moves. The other option would be earlier on here with Lance Benson, a round 1 to 2 prospect with that B for power, B for block shed. We also need to find help for off-ball linebacker, and it doesn't seem like we're really going to get that anywhere early on here for actual left outside linebackers. Damian Sampson is the first non-pass rusher, pass coverage guy, and that's always a little bit of a toss-up here with edge guys. But the zone and the man, they're at a good range at least. As for middle linebackers, you have a lot more options here. Earliest round guy is going to be Montel Tompkins around 2 to 3 with A awareness, lacks the play rec. Frankly, lacks a whole lot of other things. He's good coverage, but he doesn't come with much run stopping. One guy who potentially could have a balance is Abdul Starks here. We don't know where that block shedding is. If it's at the high range, it's at a good spot. The coverage, though, is sitting at a really good spot. And Alex Reese here, he does have that C block shedding with B for man, A for zone, a really good option as a round 3 to 4 projection. And once again, at right outside linebacker, really no help here. There are a couple run stoppers, but none that look all too promising. At corner, potentially someone like Philip Reddick, who does have C man, C zone, and C press as a day 3. Could be a solid option and looking to add depth. We're really not seeing anything for top tier talent. Let's take a look here at free safety. If we really want to move on, we have a starter ready to take over. You're going to have the zone coverage here with James Hurd. Lack a little bit of that man coverage. Opposite for Kari Parker, who has the C for the zone, B for the man. You'd also find that same talent with Kylan Brinkley here. And no one necessarily else standing out there at free. At strong, a shorter list here, but a couple guys at the top. Yancey could play both sides, so depending on what all is available, there's really nothing good happening at strong. But with a rough guide then set up, it's time to head on into the draft. Now, we pick at the end, as we obviously won the Super Bowl, so most likely we're not going to be trading up for anyone. I didn't see anyone at the top at positions of need that seemed all too intriguing for us. So we are going to just straight on skip on down to our next user pick. So down here at spot 32 in the draft, there are still a couple quarterbacks here at the top, and I'm not against picking up a quarterback this year if any of these guys do fall into the second round or even honestly past that point. That's what we did to pick up the guy that we very well might be looking to trade in this episode. As for these quarterbacks, looks like the best one, at least with the information we have, very well could be Dean Walker. Looks to be a solid guy, but not who we're going to go with here. If we just look at who's available top of our board with guys we had interest in, obviously Dean Walker coming in at the top. There was Joe Branch, and he was the guy that we did spend a focus scout on. So if we take a look here at his player card, make sure I don't actually hit the draft him button. Branch is 6 foot 202, 21 years old, out of North Carolina. Had some solid athletics at the combine. Maybe not the top end speed I would be looking for, and he is 100% a free safety. My over the top safety, I should say, which is typically what I put at free. Injuries good, tackles good, zone is good. Man coverage is poor, play recognition is poor. This would be a rough spot in which you could go after him. I'm just not sure if he's the best option. And there are a few more guys here in the round 1 to 2, some offensive line, defensive line, and another safety. Now, Kari Parker, we have the most information on of that bunch. 6'1", 225 out of Colorado. Much faster at safety. Altogether seems to be a better combine. He has some zone and man coverage with tackle there, however, very much injury prone. A D to an F there. We saw how big of an impact that was with Sexton. Kind of pushes me a little bit off of Parker. Now, we missed out on one Stanford defensive line. Do we go that way here? A run stopper listed at right end. Lance Benson, 6'3", 304. But he runs sub 5 second, actually even sub 4.9. Has some decent bench reps, 32 to 34, 3 cone and 20. A little bit lackluster. But he has power moves, he has block shedding. Injury C to an F. We already have our starters. I don't think we go for a backup this early. For Manny Irwin, he could fall into that same boat. Also listed run stopper here at 6'4", 293, 21 years old, Texas A&M. Similar speed, slightly stronger, slightly better 3 cone and 20-yard shuttle. And he has A for his block shedding, A for play rec, B for power moves, with C finesse. I mean, he looks to be a very good player. And at this point, you might just be looking to go BPA. Could be Manny Irwin. But with one more guy falling in this range, it's Chester Derby. Listed left guard, a power archetype at 6'5", 331, out of Bama, 23 years old. A lot of bench reps, but pretty good all-around athleticism. He's going to struggle against that finesse. He's a big, thick boy with A awareness, A impact, A run block power, A lead, and then a range of B to D on pretty much everything else with injury concern C to an F. You could also look to potentially overdraft, though the talent grade is at a good spot in Larry Mason. Round 1 to 2 talent, projected 2 to 3. Pass pro guy at 6'4", 309, 22 years old, out of Colorado. Not the strongest. And he's very much a pure pass protector, which I feel like we have with Starks already. So then looking to go BPA from our list of players, I think, honestly, Manny Irwin is the guy to go after, provide even more flexibility for us up front. That speed, I would imagine, coming in maybe in the upper 70s, perhaps. Might even creep into the low 80s. I think this is where we go here. Manny Irwin is our round 1 selection here in the NFL draft, spot 32. And the crowd is hyped up. We're just going to tone them down a little bit, at least on my side. And he comes in with a B grade. How, as he was actually number 8 in overall value, I don't know. That seems like an A hit for me. But scouting report possesses NFL-ready strength, effective at shedding blocks in the run game, ability to win using power moves is impressive. And it is 75 speed, so I was right out the gate. He could play both, probably a 3-tech, maybe a little bit of edge help as well. Normal dev. I think that's a solid pick for us here out the gate. Now, we don't pick again until the latter part of the second round. So once again, we are going to skip ahead. We're not trading up in this draft whatsoever. Now, with this range, I feel like looking at the linebackers could be pretty big for us. Or perhaps we could even look to pick up Dean Walker, who is still available. Branch is also still available. We were talking about linebackers. And there is Starks. We talked about him. He was another guy that I'd finished the scouting report on. He's going to come in with some solid speed at linebacker. Great 3 cone. Strength isn't too bad, but it doesn't come with much help in the run stop. Now, we could still use depth as a cover linebacker for us, and he's got great coverage skills. A for man, A for zone with good awareness. Injuries at a good spot. Play rec, solid at a C. He could be a really good option. But also, he could be available with one of our later picks. There's also potentially McCallum. Do we go for a receiver in that same range as Starks? It's all possible. But I think with what's available here at the top, I feel like we got to go with either the quarterback or potentially even the safety. Pure free safety style. Again, he's just a pure free safety, not going to help us when it comes to the man coverage. Is the speed enough with what we see coming from the 20-yard and the 3 cone? I think it could be solid. I mean, the speed is even listed at solid. I'm covering that one up slightly. And as for the quarterback out of Ole Miss, he'll be another guy that we draft, trade a year later to a team needing a quarterback. He's got good throw on the run, good throw under pressure. Break sack is really good. Accuracies across the board are Bs, so honestly, he might even just really truly be a backup quarterback for the future. And we would still have Baker for a year as a mentor for him to get him ready as Polk focuses on being the starter. But I think if we're looking at actual potential starting players, That's got to be Joe Branch. We're going to draft the safety with our second pick, number 19 in the second round. And he's coming in with a B-. Ranked true overall 50. We snagged him up at 51, so that seems to be a pretty good spot. Rangy, effective in zone coverage, exactly what we're looking for the safety over the top. Consistent tackler, faster on tape. That was my worry. As he comes in with 87 speed, so slower. But he does have hidden dev, and that could help make up for things. 89 acceleration. We'll see how he compares to our other safeties. Now, as we are back on the board here to close out the second round, we do pick again mid-third round, and that's something to keep in mind here as we do move forward. So let's take a look at who's available on our favorites board. Is the quarterback still there? No, he ends up going. So I think that really narrows things down then for us. It's time to go after one of these linebackers. So taking a look at each of them here, there is also a corner sitting at the top in Corey Hickman. Talked about moving on from Coleman, perhaps. So we'll just take a quick look at him. He's got good press. Man, though, is at a C. Zone's at a C. I don't think this is a spot for that. But getting to these linebackers, you want someone who could help out in the run while also being able to stop the pass. Tevin Hunt does have that potential. We could even maybe split up linebacker selections, go with more of a run stopper at a later on point, or even a potential undrafted, because the best coverage you're gonna have is gonna be Starks. Intriguing though with Alex Reese, he does have that C block shedding, but you're gonna sacrifice a little bit of that man coverage. Since we haven't looked at his chart, let's pull him up. Out of Oregon State, 6'3", 228, 21 years old. Really good athlete. Strength maybe could be a little bit higher, but he does have that higher block shedding. Injury is a C to an F. That could weigh into things here with Starks. Starks' injury was an A. And I feel like he overall would be the higher ceiling of the style of player we need to pick up. So Abdul Starks is going to be our next selection here to close out the second round. So we've gone after 3 straight defensive players, not touching the offense, at least as of yet. But the war room seems pretty hyped here for Starks. Coach Boston receiving the love here from the crew, as Starks already has a hat available. And that's going to be B+, which is interesting because his true value is 71. We got him at 64. Possesses good speed for a linebacker, shows knack of getting ball carrier to the ground. Not exactly great tackling, or block shedding at least. Above average cover skills as a zone defender. With hidden dev, 87 speed, 69 strength. Perhaps he could even elevate above Bullet. We'll see how these guys all figure into the lineup. But once again, as we jump forward now, midway through round 3, we have some round 3 to 4s on our board, and Reese is still there if we wanted to double dip, but I think now with the linebackers, we need to focus on someone who has some run stop ability. So then you look potentially towards receiver. In fact, are there any offensive linemen still available that we like? All the left tackles are gone. There's some mid to late round guys available, but none of them looked all too promising. So then going back to the favorites, I think it's time to look at DeMar McCullum, who's 6'5", 194, 23 years old, played at Texas, a slot archetype who is slow for being sub 6 foot, running a 4.64. Yeah, it's not a good combine whatsoever. Does he have any injury problems? B to a C, so can't necessarily say that he had some injuries at the combine. Hands are solid. The route running isn't anything spectacular. Now, we talked about potentially picking up a quarterback that fell. Well, Steve DeBose is still on the board here. Was projected top 5. We are mid-third round. Take a look at him. 6'5", 225, 22 years old, improviser out of TCU. Solid enough speed with good throw power behind my head. Good 20 and 3 cone. I mean, good athlete. Just don't really know about the accuracies. Obviously, he fell. This could be another spot you could pick up a fallen quarterback. There's also a receiver in this round, Ben Almas, 5'11", 205, 23 years old out of Western Kentucky, who also struggled in his combine. Better 20-yard shuttle, though. And he's going to have some slightly increased route running, though not much. Hands question. There is a strong run blocker, though agile archetype in Ben Para from USC, 22 years old. He's got some good bench reps, though. Overall, a great combine for a center. Pass blocking is going to struggle with that being a C, though the finesse is at a good spot. Power is at a C. Run blocking is A to a C, with the finesse being an A. The power is C to an F. An intriguing option. Here's a guy we didn't talk about in Will Walsh, another linebacker, run stopper archetype, 6'2", just under 250 out of Alabama, 22 years old. With good speed, good strength, overall pretty solid combine. Has the B to a D for his block shedding, but it listed him as a run stopper. With the zone being a B, I think he's definitely a candidate to be picked up with this spot. And with the rest of the board being day threes or potential undrafteds, I think it really comes down to that off-ball linebacker or perhaps the quarterback. And with there being a couple linebackers in this range, I think it is a good option for us to once again pick up the fallen quarterback. So let's go Steve DeBose and let's see why he fell in this draft class. He'll be our selection here in the third round and is coming in with true value at 38. We got him at 79. Shows great touch on intermediate throws. Beautiful deep ball, unfazed by pressure. Normal dev with 91 throw power, 80 speed. We've got options at quarterback for the future. With us yet again picking in just about half a round, we will jump to that spot and let's go check on some of those linebackers. There were a few options we had. With most of this seemingly going to the defense, it did see the largest overhaul this offseason. And all but Reese did go. There was Gregory Wharton, 6'1", 243 out of South Carolina. Solid enough combine, didn't really stand out anywhere, and is just average seemingly across the board. As we do need depth for the linebacker group, Alex Reese, once again taking a quick look. Really good combine. Just wish that block shedding was a little bit higher, but overall, I think it's probably BPA for us here. We're going after the Oregon State linebacker, double dipping in the first half of this draft. And he'll come in with a C selection. But again, we picked him lower than his true value. So I don't know exactly how these all work. Never made sense to me, but more than enough speed to play linebacker in the NFL. Willing tackler that rarely misses. That's big. Smart, rangy zone defender. And he's hidden dev, 91 speed. I think we hit on another linebacker selection. Taking our biggest jump, we now go down to the last pick here of the fourth round, and I'm sure our favorite board is going to start thinning out from here as we take a look. We still have 23 on our board, so that is, I guess, good for us. A lot of guys here late on, and speaking of these guys late on, there are a couple receivers to take a look at. Dante De Carvalho, a round 2 to 3 talent grade. Physical guy, 6'2", 197, 21 years old, played at LSU. Good speed, just a little slow. He doesn't have that quick burst to his game. Has the A-spec catch, B for short route running, F for medium, F for deep. Injury is a concern. Is he the best option here? I mean, the talent grade says 2 to 3. I just don't feel like I ever see anything good with receivers. We do have a couple other options in the round 3 to 4. Matt Dupree, potential undrafted, so we wouldn't go after him here, but another physical archetype at 6'5", 217 out of Kansas. A big range there on the speed, though, 4.49 to 4.56. Again, not the quickest step. Hands maybe a little bit better. Injury concern isn't as big. Short route running, take a little step back with catching traffic being a little bit higher. So, I mean, you got options. None of these guys necessarily standing out from the pack. There was one other receiver, and that was Chester Thomas. Around 3 to 4, 6 foot 191, a slot archetype from Oklahoma. Solid enough speed there, has that quick 20-yard step. Could be an option for us. Might not be a starter, but could be maybe someone to put some pressure in on the receiving group. We will draft Chester Thomas, get a player on the offensive side, why don't we? C- selection, true value is 115, we got him 128. Very reliable hands, excels at drags, slants, and other short routes, which is what we run a lot of. Concerns about his speed. Coming in at 90 speed, seems fine by me. 89 excel, good change of direction to him. I think he could be a solid addition here. Now we are down now into round number 5 here, where we do have a couple of selections. Let's take a look to see what we have on our board. Anyone still available that we want to go after? Well, we are running low on a couple options that at least we know the true grade of. Could look at potentially bringing in another running back if we want to move on from Levi Brown. We got Kadeem Wilson, a power back at 6 foot 221, out of Oklahoma, 23 years old. Not the fastest, but has some strength definitely to his game. Good stiff arm. Herring, break tackle, and ball carrier vision all sitting at a B. The trucking is at a B to a D. With injury, C to an F. Seems like an okay selection, but probably nothing too much different than the guy we already have at the bottom of the board. But here's a player who has some interesting ratings. You're going to suffer with the pass blocking, but you do have some decent power to the game in Nathan Burris. Potential and drafted day 3. Might be a little bit too early of a pick, but someone to keep an eye out on, as he does have some solid strength. Of everyone else we have left on our board, Dante DeCarvalho has seen the highest rise. And while he definitely struggles with the down the field play, someone who could play underneath, I just don't think receivers ever have good grades in this game, so it's really hard to tell. We could take a flyer here on Dante DeCarvalho in the second half of this draft, and we'll see if it ends up panning off for us. Ranked 80 true overall, we got him at 131. Track, secures ball with defenders closing in, comes down with the toughest catches, shows refined technique on short routes. He's a hidden dev with 90 speed, so someone I would have definitely skipped on. Perhaps might not be as bad as I was thinking. And now we're making a trade. We're going to bring in a guard, a power backup offensive lineman, sending the Browns our 5th, 6th, and 7th round pick, which does still leave us with a couple more options to make in this draft class. And those last 2 picks would actually be packaged up in a trade with the Ravens for a 4th round pick next season. So that takes us to the end of the draft, where it's time to see how well we did and if some of those receivers that we took flyers on actually pay off. And overall, I'd say we did pretty well. Our lowest overall was Chester Thomas, a 69 overall. In fact, DeCarvalho came in slightly higher at a 71. Well, let's break down this draft class. Starting at the top, we got Manny Irwin, who's a bigger fella, 6'4", 293, 21 years old, coming in with coaching boost here at a 77. And it's 76 speed for him, 91 strength. As he has some power moves, as he's actually very much more of the block shed type. So he will probably fit better listed as a DT for us. So we'll go ahead and make that adjustment. Or with that adjustment, he actually goes up to a 79 overall. So nearly hit on an 80 overall player there with the last pick in the 1st round. He still might shift around a little bit with that line, but with the 75 speed, he's not going to be one of the first options to be put at edge. Now, as for Joe Branch, he is a 73 true overall with that hidden dev, and he's going to come in with 87 speed. And he has 77 zone. Very much lacks the man coverage, so I don't think he's in line to start, but could be someone maybe after a couple years, and if we play some 4-2-5, maybe he sees some field action, and in which case he will see some growth. As for Abdul Starks, coming in 72 overall, another hidden dev out of Clemson, and he has 65 block shedding, so very much is going to be a cover man, which would fit better for him at right outside linebacker, so we'll make that adjustment as well. Now that does take his overall down just by 1 to a 71. We also changed his number to a 51. Just 40 didn't quite look quite right, but it does make him a scheme fit. Following him, we grab the falling quarterback in Steve DeBose. He's a 73 normal dev. And that seems like someone who could be a more long-term backup for us, maybe 2-3 years. He sees some development, then finally gets a starting chance. But the accuracies aren't in a bad spot. Has some speed to his game. He could be a starter in the future. Now, as for Alex Reese, a 70 overall, but another hidden dev. And he's going to come in with maybe a little bit higher of that block shedding. Zone coverage is at a decent spot, though. I think he will stay at middle linebacker. I think we could develop him more towards that field general. He's only one upgrade away, hopefully, from actually getting that. So maybe put that into run stopper. That'll bump up that field general spot. But that's a good depth selection for us here. That was the goal of this offseason, was to get that depth rebuilt, and I think we did it. We even added some possibilities for the receiving group down the future. Chester Thomas out of Oklahoma, 69 normal dev. But he's coming in with some solid hands, could definitely use some work. The short and medium route running are actually at a pretty good spot to start. He's never going to be a down the field guy. But you develop him for slot, perhaps a little bit of some physical archetype upgrades as well. And I think you've got a solid guy to rival eventually some starting time in that slot position, maybe slot 2. But he's also got to battle against Day Carvalho, coming in at a 71 overall, another hidden dev. Similar speed, hands definitely more of a question. He's a more polished short route runner, but lacks everything else. Spec catch, though, is at a 99. You're going to have a little bit more release with his game, though he is more injury prone. That's down at an 85. So you've got options for receiving depth. And overall wise, I feel like we added a lot of good pieces, but there are still moves that need to be made. And frankly, where I wanted to start in moving Tyrell Hobbs, right now, teams are being a little bit stingy with the trades on the quarterback market. So for right now, we're going to head into this next season with Polk, Hobbs, DeBose, and Mayfield all on the roster. Mayfield, I want to have that mentor tag for these young quarterbacks, but hopefully we will find trades for either Hobbs or DeBose, whoever teams come calling for. At running back, seems like we'll be running back the same trio. Maybe Kerry Barber does end up cracking onto that list, but could be another guy who might be headed back to the practice squad. Getting to the receiver group here. Now, there is a steep drop-off here. Now, Matt Conley was a part of this team last year, may not make it now. And LaPierre probably won't make it either, especially them being 26 years old. So we could still look to add that mentor to this group. Tight end staying rock solid as last year. Now, we weren't able to find any depth for the tackle spot, so we'll have to check free agency for that. But as we weren't able to make a trade at the quarterback spot, perhaps teams would be a little bit more interested in Antone Harrison. And we've worked out a player-for-player trade. Harrison is headed to the Browns, and we bring in a new starter at free safety. So for George Boss and for Cisco, most likely that means their time here is going to be very limited, especially with us drafting Joe Branch, who now can develop for a couple of years, and then we'll see what he could do. But how about let's introduce you to Rashad Shepard. Third-year player who was drafted in the 3rd round. He's already had a Pro Bowl appearance. He's star dev, 5'11", 218, 24 years old. He's got speed. He's got zone. He's got bit of man as well. He can tackle. He is an aggressive play ball tendency guy, so hopefully that means we're going to get some picks. Now, he is injury concerned. 79 there, so it's good that we have the depth. That means Branch could see some playing time, and it could even mean that Boss sees some playing time. But we basically trade away Harrison to get rid, hopefully, of the horrendous amount of holding calls. It also opens up starting time here for our second-year tackle in Quentin Starks from Notre Dame, another star dev, and he has really good ratings, and he has balanced penalty tendencies. So hopefully, again, we just take the flags out of this offense. Now, in a corresponding move, we sent Andre Cisco to the Panthers. They didn't have a single free safety, so he will remain starter in this league. But we're going to bring in a 2nd and a 6th round pick. And in another move, still at safety, we're going to send Jose Cobbs over to the Broncos, as he will actually have starting ability over there, and we'll bring in a 3rd round pick. Now for the new backup, I did move George Boss from free safety over to strong safety. So we have really good depth at safety, and if we do run any 4-2-5, we should be good there. Boss could also fill in as some depth here for the cornerback group as well. And the final big piece has been played. Josh Hines Allen, as well as Tyrell Hobbs, are packing their bags and heading to the opposite coast to play for the LA Rams. In return, we get a 1st and 3rd round pick in 2029 and a 2nd and 4th round pick in 2030. We used a late 3rd round to draft Tyrell Hobbs. I think a 1st and a 3rd might be even maybe a little too much for Josh Hines Allen. So overall, I feel like we picked up a good bag here, trading 2 big players. There's only 2 more things I'd like to do here today, and that is find a mentor at receiver. Someone who I would hope would be around a mid-70s overall. I'm not finding any mentors here. You got to go down a fair bit, down to Devontae Adams, down at a 73. And that's going to be your highest possible player there. So it looks like we'll be going without a mentor at this position. When finding a mentor along the offensive line, how about Cam Robinson? A little bit pricier, but does have that mentor tag here. And if for whatever reason Starks gets injured or banged up, we have very much a plug and play option for the offensive line. So we will sign him. And that is where this one will come to a close. We put in a lot of work here in the offseason, and we're going to see at least a pretty good shakeup when it comes to the defensive side of things. We're jumping over to the lineup here. Offensive line-wise, pretty much the same. Stark slotting into the lineup there. Thomas staying around, at least for now. We'll see if he gets the workload he's looking for. Addison will probably still be the primary receiver for us, and Kirk Colbert will get his chance to start in the slot. We'll probably split the time between Perkins and ETN this next year a whole lot more across the board. A little bit more, I would say 60-40, perhaps with ETN at that 60. And then on the defensive side, we switch to a 4-3. Walker now the starter at left, and Alford and Smith down the middle, with Griffey getting the start at right. You got a little bit of a shakeup here at linebacker. Technically, Bullet now a starter. Aluakin returns, and we'll see how he does with Bullet. Perhaps if Bullet doesn't perform, Aluakin could step in. Matt Milano brought in. We got some young guys behind as well who arguably should see some playing time. DBs did see some change. Shepard stepping in, starter here at free safety. We might see a little bit of Joe Branch as well. Boss moves over to strong, and as for right now, it's Jerry and Jones and Campbell leading us into the season. That means Emerson still right now in the slot, but who knows? We'll see if any more deals happen if Campbell gets traded before the season. But if you enjoyed these offseason moves and hopes to make it a little bit more competitive for us heading into the next season, make sure you show Coach Boston some love. Hit that thumbs up button for all the good work he's put in, and to make sure you don't miss out on the rest of Madden 25 before Madden 26 hits the first half of next month. I believe, again, August 11th is the early release date. Make sure you hit that sub button either down below or bear icon in the bottom right corner of this video. And if you tap that bell icon, you'll be notified of when all these videos go live. We got Cha-Cha Vaz back tomorrow, and next week we return to the normal scheduled lineup. College football Monday and Friday, Cha-Cha Vaz Tuesday and Thursday, and your Jacksonville Jaguars with double, triple, maybe even more headers on Wednesday. We'll see you around as we head into a new year with a few new faces.